That's why, like, when I was applying to, like, Kent, like, was it?
All right, Mr. President, I believe it is 5:15. The agenda says 5:15. We do have a quorum of 3 out of 5. I believe that Mr. Moran should be joining us within the next 10 or so minutes.
Okay, with that, then this meeting will come to order. Call the roll.
Endries?
Here.
Kasdorf?
Here.
Klibowitz?
Here.
Is there anyone desiring to be heard? None. Consideration of the minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in opposition, say nay. Motion passes. New business. Item A, discussion to gather commission input on M1 zoning district, permitted and conditional uses.
If I may. So this is, both presentations are meant to be a revisitation of a larger conversation about rezoning setbacks. We're still getting feedback from the village Brookfield Fire Department. But I think we do have one person desiring to be heard, and that's a business owner or a property owner in the village. So if we can jump back to that one real quick.
Do you want to do, well, is it under the M1 or the B1? We
It
turn the
would
microphones down one notch. By the way, they're very little loud.
but it would fall under the M1.
Okay, so I could have him speak during the M1. Do you want item A and B to be combined, or are those separate discussions?
Separate discussion items,
Okay.
just because I think they're different parts of the village in that sense.
Okay, so then at this time, I would ask the person desiring to be heard to come forward to discuss item M1. Your name and phone number, I think, is what we need. Or name and
Of the
address.
business.
Awesome. My name is Brian Haberly, and the business address is not on the top of my head, but over here. It is 4561 North 124th Street in Butler. And so I'm looking at proposed use of a indoor sports and recreation kind of facility. So I'd be looking at putting in like a half basketball court inside, a 4 shuffleboard, a golf simulator. And so it would be like in an area that teams can rent out for practices. People can rent out for small gatherings, a nice place for community to go to get together. If you don't want to go to your house, you can, go to rent out the facility, have a birthday party there for your kids, that type of thing.
So I have talked with Mr. Haberly on a couple of occasions when he had just bought the building, and then more recently as he kind of checked in on how the commission was progressing with this discussion. So I did encourage him to come to the meeting to see kind of what we discuss, and also to provide any type of input that he wanted to kind of show what what we're looking at and what potential businesses could be welcomed into the village with the passage of these amendments to the zoning code itself. So I just kind of wanted to put a face to what could be a possibility with the amendments that will be coming within the next month or so, depending on what the commission wants to do.
So because this is an item on the agenda, we can have back and forth discussion. Would he be able to do what he wanted right now?
No,
Okay, per our code, per the M1 zoning,
correct.
that would not be allowed. And that's what, and that's because it's recreational, or what would be the,
Correct. So
you can come forward. We started a little bit on time.
And so, yes, recreational uses, entertainment type uses are not allowed in the code. So if we had almost a year ago, somebody come in and wanted to do like RC car racing, and that wasn't a use that was allowed per the letter of the code in the M1 district. And so it's between those and a few uses like gyms that have kind of popped up in the M1 district have started kind of creating a need by the staff to say, hey, let's bring this back to the plan commission and have the plan commission weigh in on a potential vision or an updated vision of each respective district, of each respective different parts of the community, as far as what uses make sense, what uses fit with your vision for these areas. As we've gotten some property owners, some businesses that have come forward that have interesting ideas, but our code explicitly doesn't allow those types of recreational uses.
Now we're sitting there, it doesn't apply for entertainment. Where, the items we do have in town, what are they zoned? We got skate land for one, and there used to be, well, I don't think we have it anymore, but the skate park on the north side of Silver Spring.
Correct. So with Skateland, they are governed by conditional use permits. So it's specifically called out in the conditional use section of the code that skating rinks are allowed if they go through the conditional use process. This type of recreational use is not called out specifically in the M1 section of the code. So if it was like a skating rink, I would have to look at the exact language, but this type of recreational use is not specifically detailed as of right now.
Okay.
So in this situation, could he apply for conditional use in the M1 and have it, but it would be a process?
Let me just quickly pull up the conditional uses for the M1. I apologize.
So when a use is not explicitly allowed, if the code allows for the zoning administrator to have some latitude in kind of saying, hey, this use is kind of like a skating rink or in the intensity, then it would be allowed. But usually, based on a planning and zoning standpoint, you would want that language of allowing the zoning administrator to make that determination. Otherwise, as soon as you kind of get laxed on allowing one use to kind of be allowed in when it's not explicitly allowed, it kind of weakens the bar to hold other uses that are not explicitly allowed.
And I just checked, the M3 does have a recreational conditional use. So arcades, bowling alleys, clubs, dance halls, gymnasiums, indoor shooting ranges, lodges, miniature golf courses, physical culture, pool and billiards halls, Turkish baths, skating rinks, and theaters. But that is not called out in the M1 district.
And you couldn't make that building, for example, an M3 just because.
Correct. It would be spot zoning, which is illegal, and also the way that the M3 district is worded right now is for the heaviest uses. So again, we have Cargill, we have Western States there. So that's the heavier, more, as the code says, it's more hazardous to human life, more potential for odors, dust, debris, that type of stuff, versus the lighter industrial, which is again kind of the tool and die shops and the contractor offices that are primarily in the M1.
And so the M3 district, that's the southwest side of the village, and that's the north side of the village, where it's a little bit further away from the residential areas. So noise, lights, there isn't that much concern about noise and lights from a recreational use necessarily spilling over into the residential area. Whereas the M1 and the B1 districts are much closer, and that's something for the Plan Commission to kind of consider in your vision as far as your recommendation to the board.
Okay. Thank you. Did you have any, part of our discussion tonight is just exactly that, M1 and zoning and things like that. So did you have any other comments or questions for us?
No, do you guys have any other questions about my use?
Not at this time.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you for your-
Thank you. All right, we can continue with then the presentation on M1 zoning.
Can you make sure that the microphone's on? It's a green light.
It should be on. I turned it on.
Okay, yeah. All right, hello again. Today we're presenting a second memo for the M1 district, adding on to our last conversation from earlier this year. This memo is different from the last one because it goes into more detail and presents several edits to the code for discussion. Each topic of discussion is broken into two approaches: a minimal approach that addresses current needs, and a drastic approach that introduces the district as a mixed-use space. The items of discussion are 1, updating the M1 scope/purpose description in the village code, and 2, proposing updated lists of newer, altered, permitted, and conditional uses within the M1 district. Additionally, the memo includes some definitions of uses for further clarification, along with information regarding the Waukesha County Comprehensive Plan. We present this memo to the commission to read over and provide your thoughts on the different approaches we have created. The changes shown are still flexible and can be adjusted if the commission wishes. Our goal is to get a further understanding of which approach the commission agrees with and begin to prepare an initial draft of the updated zoning code. Please let us know if you have any questions, concerns, or ideas. Thank you.
So Caitlin did kind of compile and presented to me and Aaron, and we went back and forth with both her and Victoria numerous times, kind of refreshing stuff, moving stuff around, adjusting the wording. So in the packet, I did provide that memo with the two approaches, and as Caitlin said, it's kind of a dual approach, one where it's kind of just doing more of a expanding the definitions, moving some stuff around. Then you have more of the extreme where it'd be more of a mixed use. And if we did that, as the memo states, we would have to go through Waukesha County's amendment process for that, which if you have questions on, Aaron can speak to. But it is a little bit, it's about, I think, what was it, 4 to 6 months-ish? If we wanted to do that. So mixed use would then be bringing in more of a commercial aspect to it in addition to the manufacturing and the recreational, where it'd be, allowing any type of like retail sales to kind of occur in addition to what's already there.
So just one caveat. So Waukesha County is eventually meaning anytime between 4, potentially 6 months to 2 years, needs to update their comprehensive plan anyways. So there might be an opportunity to just marry up our proposed changes with their already process. It just depends on eventually when the county, most likely not until after the election, starts in earnest on that process.
What do you think is the best option as being involved in it on a day-to-day basis, and what's best for the village?
Aaron, I guess I'll let you speak first.
So I think for the M1, the biggest things that the Plan Commission should consider is intensity of use and making sure that any additional use, whether it's conditional or otherwise, is something that is conducive to the district as a whole. So a moderate change is, I think, what the village staff would definitely recommend, with the more extreme change being something that where we added a lot more conditional uses. And if we go with that option B, that more expansive use, that would have a lot more kind of back and forth between the building board and the board when it comes to conditional uses, saying, hey, we have somebody coming in, and then we have to do a lot more diligence on ensuring parking is taken care of in that conditional use process, lighting, hours of operation, drop off hours, depending on what type of use we're looking at. So I think the village staff is very comfortable with the first option, the moderate option. But then again, the more extreme option provides more flexibility. It's something that can be done with relatively, as far as implementing that change. It's just a matter of time. But it's something to be cognizant of, that the village will need to be more proactive on ensuring in that conditional use process, hours of operation per that type of intensity of use is something that is a key negotiating point, so that any traffic, lighting, or noise is mitigated for our residents that are much closer to these areas.
Does item B give us more potential to get more businesses, or have different types of businesses, or
I would say yes. Because right now, again, we're not exactly talking about that item right now, but I'll just say yes, and I'll expand on more when we get to that specific item. I just don't want to talk out of turn. But with the M1, to me, I agree with Aaron. The more moderate is kind of the approach that I'm looking at. Then to me, again, the zoning districts are never set in stone. Things can always change, they can always move. It's a little bit of a process to do so, but they're not set in stone. They can be flexible if needed. So, and I believe the comprehensive plan with the county expires in 2035.
Yeah, so almost every municipality updates the comprehensive plan well before the actual expiration date. It's just a question of when, and most likely with leadership change in Waukesha County, that won't happen until
After April, at least.
after April.
When the county executive race is settled. But what I would say is because to me, if we were looking at doing that, I would like to see kind of how it sounds bad to put it this way, but to kind of see how the more moderate changes work. If businesses and like property owners are interested in bringing these new uses in, how these uses fare. If they're there and they're just causing problems up the wazoo, then again we can scale some of that back. But then if we wanted to make it a little bit more expansive, we can then pair up the additional changes when the comprehensive plan comes. We just don't know when that happens. But even with that, as Aaron can attest to, comprehensive plans take, well, I'm guessing well over a year to formulate, put together, get input on, pass, adopt, come into effect. So at that point, we'll have plenty of time to relook at that and see if we wanted to further expand or change anything.
So because we're doing this, would it be best to do it bigger than normal instead of just like a little bit now? I mean, looking forward.
I think that what we're offering is more than just a little bit. I think that, in my opinion, the uses that we're having come in are pretty different than what's already present there. Again, it's primarily, a lot of the contractors, a lot of automotive, a lot of tool and die and contractor work. Adding the stuff that we're wanting to add is already, I think, a pretty significant step from where we are now.
Now, if looking at this and discussing this, how many opportunities have we passed up of people not meeting that? As far as, has anybody tried coming in here and saw what they were up against and said, well, nothing, forget it?
So
And
it's-
what type of businesses were those?
So in my knowledge, this year, we had the gentleman, his recreational use. We also had a kickboxing gym that expressed some interest, but because of his additional uses, he eventually went to another location, as well as the RC car kind of racing use as well that stand out as far as, hey, these are kind of novel, interesting, different uses that would provide a different type of energy to the district, but ultimately none of those necessarily worked. Just to call out one use that we didn't necessarily include would be the more childcare, just because we didn't feel like that was a conducive use for these areas.
And there's all sorts of regulations and stuff around that. But there's several, and I apologize, I can't remember what they were exactly, but I know that I have probably at least 3 more that I can't recall right now because they happened, like, I'm talking like a year and a half, 2 years ago, where they called me and they're like, "Hey, we're looking at this building. Can we do something?" I'm like, no, you can't. It might be more conducive to the B1, but you can't really do that where you have it now. Again, that's 2 years ago, and I can't remember what exactly they were.
Okay.
So you would like option B?
I'm in favor of option B. Again, with option C, that would probably delay things a lot, because we would have to work with Waukesha County, and I believe that Caitlin, there was a cost involved. I think it was like $200 or $300. yeah, like several $100s to undergo that whole process. And then again, we would be at the will of the county board and all this other stuff. Again, without, without a county executive right now, I don't know if they would even, again, I don't know where that would all fall. So with this, we can move ahead on our own and get things done. Cause I don't, I'm not trying to make it all about Mr. Haberly, but we do have business owners, I think that, and potential business owners that are looking at some of this stuff and want to make a move. I know that there's several in the B when we get to that discussion that some of the buildings have been sitting for several months because they keep on coming to us and they want to do certain things, but it would be allowed. But again, I think it would be easier, more clear with being able to sell their buildings.
So option B, I did not see an option C.
Oh, no,
Oh,
we pared it down to option A and B.
yes.
A being the more moderate one.
A.
Oh, you want A?
Sorry.
Yeah.
The more moderate.
Okay, so option A says minimal changes.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's the nesting doll. The minimal changes is, so plan commission could say, hey, we don't want to consider either option. Option A is making those minimal changes that are allowed without having to trip that comprehensive plan change, but that would facilitate the recreational type uses that we just discussed.
And then option B, why does option B, what we do, why does it matter what the county does?
The county right now has the properties listed as industrial. If we went to, and I apologize for the confusion, option B, the more substantial mixed use, they have a specific zoning area in the comprehensive plan that we have signed on to in 2009 for mixed use. And it's specifically defined in there. So that's why we can't make those properties be mixed use, because that would be in conflict of the comprehensive plan. And as the state Supreme Court and others have said, the comprehensive plan is the thing. If you need to, your zoning code needs to be matching the comprehensive plan.
Got it. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, option A is minimal changes, but it's the easiest or most productive at this point. Option B would be drastic changes as labeled. It adds a lot more to it, but then that would be affected by what the county plan is.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, I understand. Are there any questions or comments on
Yeah,
this?
are there any businesses in the village that have a conditional use permit that if this were to change, they don't need it?
I would have to review. It would be the gyms that would.
Well, they don't have conditional uses.
Like a new gym might need one.
New one. So as of right now, any business that's present in the village would be grandfathered in
Yes.
and would not need to apply for it. So if all of a sudden, because one of the things that we were looking at doing is moving some of the more automotive into more of a conditional use, because we've just had a very long history of some chop shops, lots of broken down vehicles outside not getting taken care of. So kind of reining that in. But anything that is current that they have a conditional use, I think that we have maybe 3 or 4 active ones, and it's for dogs and for Skateland. And I think that's it. I don't think that there's anything that would be coming out of a conditional use getting put into a permitted use.
Okay.
Okay, so do you need a recommendation at this time to go to the village board, or you just want our opinion? Or
Yeah, it was just a
guidance?
discussion to gather your input, and if it's not, it's not marked.
So we're not looking to make a recommendation to the village board to take an action. At this point, nothing is going to be actually implemented or changed. Your recommendation and your guidance here will determine what, if any, type of draft that the village then produces for ultimately the village board's decision to review, make edits, and then either deny or approve. So at this point, before staff kind of makes time drafting an ordinance change, we wanted kind of the plan commission's direction as far as the vision of which type of draft we should pursue.
Okay. It seems to me for our discussion, it seems like A would be the best option, and I would value any input from the rest of the board or commission.
No.
Justin, did you have any input on that?
I don't have any input.
Okay, it sounds like then for M1, option A would be the best approach. Thank you, Caitlin, for the presentation. All right, any other discussion needed on item A? None. New business item B, discussion to gather commission input on B1 zoning district permitted and conditional uses.
Shorter. Good afternoon. Hi. Based on our previous discussions with the Plan Commission, my apologies. Based on the previous discussion with the Commission, staff has taken into consideration the two approaches for the B1 district. Provided in front of everyone today is an outline of a clarification of outdated language, uses, and overall of the district's current business character. Within the packet, there's provided two potential outlines highlighted for new approaches. Option A mainly focus on a more moderate update, while option B represents a more drastic approach but would allow for more flexibility. Please take a look at both option A and B with consideration of both proposed name changes, overall purpose changes, and proposed use adjustment table. In the process of researching and updating both option A and B, we as a staff decided to additionally propose a couple more clarification of definitions that were either currently in the B1 ordinance or are added to the proposed use table. In addition to reviewing options A and B, staff is also seeking direction from the Commission regarding whether to further develop mixed-use standards for the B1 districts, including standards for a higher density developments. These standards could address residential allowances such as thresholds, building heights, and design expectations. We welcome this. As staff, we welcome the Commission's feedback and direction. Thank you so much for your time.
Yep.
And so just to clarify, for the B1, we're looking at two separate questions. The first one being that kind of option A, the more incremental approach for adding additional conditional, permitted, and updating some terminology. Option B of that first question being the kind of the more extreme, adding a lot more. The second question is looking at whether or not the Plan Commission would want to make it potentially easier through a conditional use process to allow a developer to hypothetically, which has not been proposed for in the village in our time, to hypothetically make it easier for the village, for a developer through a conditional use process to build vertically up, essentially, let's say demolishing a building and then adding 1 or 2 stories of residential above it. So the village has not received any proposals to do so, but it is something that we want to bring to the Plan Commission and to gauge your guidance on as far as whether or not that is something that fits within the vision for Hampton Avenue, the B1 area.
For Hampton Avenue.
Will be one.
For the B1,
Downtown.
specifically the eastern edge of Hampton Avenue, where you have commercial on the first floor, but then this would hypothetically make it easier for additional residential developments above it.
Didn't we kind of have that with the PUD that we did a couple years ago, where we went through the process to allow? That wasn't mixed use, but it was to go up.
So yes, with the PUD, that would be to kind of a give and take process where they would, a developer, if they wanted to tear down a structure and then build higher than what the zoning code would allow, it would basically, they would provide us with something that we asked for to, like it would be certain design standards, it would be landscaping, it would be what, architectural.
Architectural.
Correct. in exchange for them being able to build higher than what they wanted, or have a little bit more density than they would otherwise be allowed to have. So that would that kind of answers your question on that. So this would be allowing, again, kind of, if you go on to Menominee Falls, they have all those businesses along their main street, where they have the businesses on the front, on the bottom, and then they have a layer of residential on top of that. So again, we just wanted to propose to the village board, as we move forward, and these buildings, of course, age and whatnot. There could come a time where a developer buys a building, wants to raise it, and then possibly build something new there, or buys two properties, wants to combine the lots, and then do something similar to that. It's not outside of the realm of possibilities that that could happen at some point in the near future. We have not, as Aaron said, been approached with anything, but we wanted to put it in front of the commission, being like, hey, what do you want to see along Hampton Avenue? Is that something that you are like, hey, that could be really cool? Or is that something that's, hey, that's just not what we're about? That's going to be too tall, too big, too dense. That's kind of, we wanted to at least put it out there for you to discuss and consider. We don't really mind either way at this point.
But now, wouldn't your height be set by your fire department? As
Yes.
far as what they can reach, what they can't reach?
Correct. So again, it would be in consideration with the Brookfield Fire Department when we get to the point of setting the maximum heights. But right now, I mean, we're talking maybe 3 stories.
So essentially looking at 45-ish feet to at most 65 feet based on the tallest buildings in the city of Brookfield. So that would, in practicality, that would facilitate not that we would potentially have to allow it, but that would potentially allow up to a 4 to 5 story building, recognizing that when it comes to an actual draft, we could always set a height limit to be lower than that if we felt that was out of character and something that didn't fit with the vision for the village.
So it's basically the same discussion on this as we have option 1 and option 2. And it would be the same discussion as we just had on the M1 zoning.
That's the first question, yes.
That's the first question. So we'll tackle that one first. That it seems to be, if we're gonna go with M1, option A, it would make sense to me that we follow suit into option 1 for the B1 zoning. Would that be would that be what administration would? Is it the same?
I guess it would, that would,
1 and 2.
I guess
Okay.
question 1 and 2 would be joined somewhat in that I believe if we went with A, that does not have any residential.
No, it does not. So so looking at the first question, it doesn't touch, it is not tied to the second question of saying, does the plan commission want more residential? The first question, looking at that side-by-side list, is saying, hey, do we want to make no change? Do we want to go with that left side, option A, where it's adding a few additional conditional uses, permitted uses, changing some terminology? Or do we feel that we want a more expansive list and go with option B for that first question as far as the business uses for that, for Hampton Avenue?
Just so we're on the same page, it's option 1 and option 2.
Yes.
That got changed, not A and B. So A and B was for M1.
Is it 1A and 2B?
No, it's option 1 and option 2 is what I'm seeing.
Well, you got
So.
1A, 2B.
Okay, I didn't get that far.
That's, I think, before yours.
Well,
That's
now-
when this comes in.
But wait, is that M1?
Entail the entire
B1.
Hampton then?
No.
Just,
The eastern side, the commercial side.
The B1 framework, it's 1,
Yeah.
option A.
I got it. Okay, so we'll need clarification. Do you
didn't
want
we
this?
have, I mean, the
I'm
old
looking-
Coast to Coast store, I don't know if anybody remembers it, had apartments above it where the W is sitting. Was that all permitted already?
Yeah,
So in the B1, we I believe we allow
But here,
like
they were
small residential on the second floor in the B1. It's, I know that there's like one, maybe two buildings on 124th Street that have like an apartment on top. So that is allowed, but again, it's a small, it's, you know, it's smaller. It's not meant to be, yeah, it's a 2-story, but it's not meant to be, you know, like dense. Like, you know, if you had kind of, again, I'm looking at, you know, some of the stuff that you see again in Menominee Falls, other larger municipalities where you have like multiple apartments on top of
Right.
a business area.
I mean, that's the old coast to coast. They had probably 4 or 5 apartments above that building.
Did they?
Yeah. Mrs. Highland from
Wow.
Elementary lived up there. So I didn't know if that was already permitted or not.
Sea
Is this-
biscuit.
Does this touch into any live works? On first floors, you know, where you got, you know, a little insurance office and right behind it, a live.
So right now in the B1, permitted accessory uses is residential quarters for the owner or proprietor or rental apartments on a non-ground floor level, provided that there shall be a minimum floor area of 300 square feet for an efficiency apartment, 420 square feet for a 1-bedroom, and a 500 square feet for a 2-bedroom apartment. So that's how that's laid out. So yes, so right now it does allow if they are on the second floor, if you have kind of like if you, again, the classic bakery or butcher shop where you have the business on the bottom and then the owner of the business lives on top.
Right. Cause I know we did a lot of downtown first floor, you know, you got a little, basically a little area to have a insurance agency or something. And right off that first floor was an apartment behind them.
Correct.
That would not be allowed.
Behind on the
On the
first
same
floor,
level,
it is
attached
not,
right
it
to
is
the-
not allowed currently under this code.
There is not one currently.
I think that I think that there technically is one business that has an apartment in the back. But again, that's been, I think, the case for years. But there's none that I know that they have an actual, besides that one building that has an apartment on the first floor behind the business.
Okay, so
That's that I know of.
option A, otherwise it's listed as option 1, would or would not allow a business to have residential above it?
So that's a separate question.
Separate question.
Yep,
Okay,
so
got
the
it.
first question is just looking at business uses and
Perfect.
adding additional business uses.
Okay, and that's option A or 1 as listed. So is that what administration would prefer? Because that would be hand in hand with M1 that we just discussed for guidance. Or am I mistaken on that?
So I think option A is the more incremental approach. It's the one that kind of allows us to kind of slowly move that, but it's, I think, as far as I'm aware, I think we're a little bit more ambivalent as far as which option the plan commission would choose.
Mark had a question.
Just wondering if, like in one discussion, the second option required to be involved with the counting of it. Does that happen with option 2, 1 or 2 here, or option 2 being more aggressive approach needs to have county intervention, or we still want to leave that?
I do not believe so, because I believe all of the proposed uses are retail, commercial oriented. If, again, option with the second question, that would involve the county, because again, that you're correct. That would be, again, the mixed use.
But it wouldn't have to go to the county until someone presented it to us, or would we have to do it now to?
We would have to do it now.
Okay.
Because if somebody's presented something to us, then we started the process, they would be waiting for, again, possibly at least 6 months, if not a little more.
Sure. Okay, so what is the plan commission's thoughts on a business with residential above it? I think is what we need to answer.
I don't see a problem with it. We already have.
I think it's already existent, so.
I would agree. So then it almost seems like in that case, since we kind of have that somewhat already and we've had it in the past, it seems like on this one, then option B would be the way to go. Because that covers that?
Mixed use district, you say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to call it mixed use to have that. Is that a
No,
fair statement?
so that's just a naming convention. So
Yeah.
allowing additional business uses on that hypothetical first floor um, does not necessitate having to allow additional residential to be allowed as a conditional use above that potential redevelopment of a building. So, an example, if I may, to kind of put this out there. So, that first question, kind of looking at the left or right side of that list, let's say with Dr. Plyer's building that's currently being remodeled, that first question says, what can go into that remodel? That second question for residential would say, would Paul, who's redeveloping that building, would Paul Schultz be able to put one, two additional stories of apartments that's above that building? That's, I think, those are kind of the two separate questions. So that first question, what type of tenants could potentially go in that business along Hampton Ave, or that place along Hampton Avenue? With the second question being, if let's say Paul was wanting to redevelop his building and build up, would that be something that the village would want to make it easier, or to try and force that type of redevelopment through a slower plan use development process, and then ultimately petitioning the county to change that comprehensive plan?
I have a side question. When you say ground level, is there, because that building in particular is a raised basement.
So
So would that still be considered a ground level, or is that now?
So I think when we worked with Paul Schultz and redeveloping that business, we did make the determination that that even though that front part is slightly raised, kind of like not a full story, but like definitely a few feet above the back half,
Mhm.
we treated that entirety as ground level as a first floor,
Okay.
and did not allow residential to be kind of put on the front side or the back side of that building.
Okay.
Is there, I'm sorry about this, but is there existing above it, that used to be living quarters above it?
There used to be a living quarters in that building, which the village was not aware of at all. It wasn't until Paul came to us and asked if we knew about it, and I said no. So you were correct. There was some sort of living arrangement in towards the front of the building, because I believe that he always had people going to the back, if I remember the signs correctly, that they had to go in through the back. So yes, you are correct. There was at some point that.
Okay. Cause I mean, even like bottoms up, I thought they always had living quarters behind there. I mean, it ain't Holiday Bar, what was it now? Derby District? I think years ago there was even behind there, first floor.
Yep. Yep.
Cause my office was there for, I don't know how many years, and then above, they do have the rental of the rooms.
And yeah, and so the as you have noted, things were more lax, and people, and I think that now with Brookfield taking over the fire inspections, they have been able to catch a lot more of these things, because they have found, I believe, on 125th and 126th on the north side, people were living in commercial buildings, and they kicked them out because you can't do that. It's not what it's zoned for, and it's also against fire code for a lot of those places. So it seems like it is kind of a problem here, and that's what we're trying to address going forward, and doing more enforcement of our codes, because apparently that was not being adequately done.
Okay.
Okay, so
And then, I'm sorry, just to make another note, if the plan commission wants to, again, you don't have to do what we suggest or say. So, I mean, if, again, if you guys are in favor of having, kind of what Reed was mentioning, where you'd have, the shop in the front and an apartment in the back, you guys have the ability to amend the code to meet that if you believe that that's the best use of the property and the best use for the best thing for the village. So I guess I just want to put that out there that you don't have to go with what we ask.
Personally, I'm kind of a fan of the mixed use. But I guess definitions with,
I mean, there isn't a whole lot of difference except it's allowing the option to put living spaces above, and that's all conditional,
It would make it
easier for that.
easier, but there's still that defined process of conditions, of putting conditions for addressing parking, noise, lighting. So there's still that process, but it's a door that can be opened in terms of the planning framework. It's a door that can be appealed if, worst case scenario, that if somebody were to say that we're being completely unreasonable in what we're asking. But on the other side, it's not, the door is shut, as in somebody has to go through a PUD process in which the village may not entertain it at all in terms of having any discussion.
I'm with Justin on this one. I think option mixed use seems to be the way to go because we still have controls in place for what would get in there with conditional uses. So we would still have some of our controls, I guess, to monitor the business.
Yes.
We could always add, like if we had to add a conditional use, we could do that, or would we be set in stone for the ones here?
No. So again, the zoning code conditional uses are flexible.
Mhm.
At any point in time, the plan, I mean, again, there's the whole process you have to go through. You have to, do the public notice. You have to send out mailers if it affects, XYZ. You have to go in front of you guys. You have to pass it on to the village board. The village board has to pass it. So, there's a process for it, but yes, you can change it. It probably would just take, 2-3 months to do.
Okay, so it seems like we are in agreement that we should do mixed use district, which would be option 2 or B on the agenda.
Correct.
And then did we answer your second question then, or you still have, does the second question of would we permit residential use above? Is that a separate guidance question for you?
If we can, just because it does it would be a significant change, something to call out as just a separate question if we can.
Okay, so we'll talk about that. I think we've discussed that, and then it seems to answer your question, and I'll seek the commission input as well, but it seems like that would be allowed to have a business and then residential above, but it also sounds like residential could be on the same floor as the business. If I
If
understand
that's the
that.
guidance of the plan commission, we can run with that.
Is that the intent? Or I guess what's the feedback or discussion on that? You mentioned it, Reed, so I didn't know if,
No, I
don't know if it matters if the resident is above or behind or on the same floor.
probably more for above. I don't know about adding behind on the first floor. I'd rather see it above, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of defines the space a little bit better.
Yeah. Yep.
Any input? Okay, so would you agree with that, Justin?
yeah, I agree.
Okay, so it sounds like then to answer your question for that then, business would be first floor, residence would be above. Thank you, Victoria, for the presentation. Is there any other discussion needed on item B, either from the commission or administration?
Not from the administration.
Okay, anything else from the board or the commission? And then everything's been answered for you guys to give you additional guidance?
Yes.
Guys and gals, okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All in opposition, say nay. We are adjourned. It passed. Motion passes. We're adjourned at 6:05. Thank you.